Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the factory's parking lot as Max and I shuffled towards my car, our heavy work boots scuffing against the asphalt. The air was thick with the scent of machinery and sweat, a familiar end-of-day ritual for us. Hey, ready for the drive? I called out to Max, slinging my lunchbox into the backseat of my sedan. Yeah, just another thrilling commute with you, Max joked, his tired smile belying the exhaustion of our day shift at the factory. As we settled into the car, the engine humming to life, Max turned to me with a hesitant look. Mind if we make a quick stop at the pharmacy? Jane's down with that flu going around. Need some meds. Sure thing, I replied, my mind already drifting to the idea of surprising my wife, Emily, who worked at that very pharmacy. We rarely crossed paths during the work week due to our conflicting schedules, and I relished the thought of catching a glimpse of her among the aisles of medications and health products. As I navigated the familiar streets, the car filled with the sounds of our idle chatter and the occasional hum of the radio. Max's voice faded into the background as I pondered the surprise awaiting Emily. In all our years of marriage, I had never visited her at work. Turn here, the pharmacy's just around the block, Max directed, snapping me back to the present. Pulling into the parking lot, I could see the pharmacy's bright fluorescent lights spilling out onto the sidewalk. My heart quickened at the thought of seeing Emily unexpectedly. I imagined her expression, a mix of surprise and delight, as she caught sight of me. We're here, I announced, more to myself than to Max. We stepped out of the car and made our way towards the entrance, the automatic doors whooshing open to greet us. The pharmacy was a hive of activity. Customers milled around, and the sound of cash registers punctuated the air. I scanned the store for Emily, my eyes darting from one counter to the next. Hey, isn't that Emily's counter? Max pointed towards the far end of the store, where prescriptions were usually filled. Yeah, it is, I said, feeling a twinge of disappointment as I noticed a middle-aged man behind the counter instead of Emily. Where could she be? Max approached the counter with his prescription, leaving me to wander the aisles aimlessly. I found myself drifting towards the back of the store, hoping to catch a glimpse of Emily stocking shelves or assisting a customer. Looking for something? A friendly voice asked. I turned to see a store employee, her name tag reading Sue. Yeah, I was looking for Emily. She works here, I explained, trying to mask my growing concern. Oh, Emily's off today. She swapped shifts with Tom, Sue replied, gesturing towards the man at the prescription counter. My mind raced. Emily hadn't mentioned anything about a shift change. I thanked Sue and meandered back to where Max was waiting, my surprise visit turning into a puzzle I hadn't expected to solve. As Max chatted with Tom about his prescription, I noticed a small photo frame on the counter. It held the image of a young girl, around the same age as our daughter, Lily. Her blonde hair cascaded in gentle waves, framing bright, curious eyes and a smile that seemed hauntingly familiar. Who's the girl in the picture? I found myself asking Tom, my voice tinged with an inexplicable urgency. That's Mr. Thomas's daughter, Sophie. She's a sweetheart, Tom replied nonchalantly, handing Max his prescription. The resemblance was uncanny. Sophie's features mirrored Lily's in a way that sent a chill down my spine. The same blonde hair, the same sparkling eyes. It was as though I was looking at Lily's twin. Max, sensing my distraction, nudged me gently. You okay, man? You look like you've seen a ghost. I forced a smile, my mind a whirlwind of questions. Yeah, I'm fine. Just thought I saw someone I knew. We left the pharmacy with my mind reeling. The image of Sophie's photograph burned into my memory, a haunting reminder of a discovery that I couldn't quite comprehend. As we drove back in silence, the usual buzz of post-work traffic around us, my thoughts were consumed by the striking resemblance between Sophie and Lily. What did it mean? Was it merely a coincidence? Or was there something more, something hidden beneath the surface of our seemingly normal life? The ride home felt longer than usual, each mile stretching out as I grappled with the implications of what I had seen. The familiar landmarks passed by in a blur, my focus entirely on the mystery that had unexpectedly unraveled before me. As I pulled into my driveway, the last rays of the setting sun casting long shadows across the yard, I knew one thing for certain. I had stumbled upon a discovery that could change everything. The next day dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing in my mind. I was determined to return to the pharmacy, needing answers about the mysterious girl in the photo who bore such a striking resemblance to my daughter, Lily. After dropping Lily off at school, I headed straight to the pharmacy. The morning air was crisp, and I shivered slightly, a mix of cold and nerves. As I entered the pharmacy, the familiar whoosh of the automatic doors sounded more ominous than welcoming. The store was less crowded than the day before, with only a few customers leisurely browsing the aisles. My eyes darted around, searching for Emily, but she was nowhere in sight. Approaching the prescription counter, I noticed the same middle-aged man, Tom, methodically sorting medications. He looked up, recognition flashing in his eyes. "Back again? Huh?" He greeted me. "Yeah," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I was wondering if you could help me with something." "Sure. What do you need?" Tom asked, placing a bottle of pills on the shelf behind him. I hesitated, the image of the girl in the photo flashing in my mind. "I saw a picture here yesterday of a girl who looks a lot like my daughter. You said she's Mr. Thomas's daughter, right?" Tom nodded, a curious look on his face. "Yeah, that's Sophie. Why do you ask?" Taking a deep breath, I plunged into my questions. "It's just, she looks so much like my Lily. It's uncanny. Do you know if Mr. Thomas is working today? I'd like to meet him." Tom's expression shifted, a hint of unease creeping in. "Mr. Thomas isn't in today, but if you're looking to speak with him, maybe Emily can help. They're quite close, you know." His words hit me like a punch in the gut. "Close? What do you mean?" Tom seemed to realize he had said too much. "Oh, just that they work together a lot. They're colleagues, that's all." The revelation sent my thoughts into a tailspin. Emily and Mr. Thomas, close? It couldn't be a mere coincidence. I thanked Tom and wandered aimlessly through the store, my mind racing with possibilities. I found myself in front of the pharmacy's community board, laden with flyers and announcements. A notice for a local charity event caught my eye, a picture of Mr. Thomas with a group of volunteers, and there, next to him, was Emily. My Emily, smiling and looking happier than I had seen her in months. I stared at the picture, a myriad of emotions coursing through me. Confusion, anger, disbelief. How had I not seen this before? Were they just colleagues? Or was there something more? "Can I help you find something?" A voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to see a young pharmacy assistant, her name tag reading Lisa. No, I'm just looking," I stammered, still reeling from my discovery. Lisa smiled politely, but her eyes were filled with concern. "You sure? You seem a bit lost." In that moment, I made a decision. "Actually, yes. I'm looking for information about Mr. Thomas." "Do you know him well?" Lisa hesitated, then nodded. "I do. He's a great boss, very kind." "Why do you ask?" I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. "This might sound strange, but I have a reason to believe that my daughter, Lily, might be connected to him. I saw a picture of his daughter, Sophie, and she looks exactly like Lily." Lisa's eyes widened in surprise. "Well, that is quite a coincidence. I don't know much about his personal life, though. Maybe Emily could help you? She knows him better than anyone here." The pieces of the puzzle were slowly fitting together, each revelation more shocking than the last. Emily and Mr. Thomas, their close relationship, the undeniable resemblance between Lily and Sophie. It was more than just a series of coincidences. There was a hidden truth here, one that I was determined to uncover. Thanking Lisa, I left the pharmacy with a heavy heart and a mind overflowing with questions. As I drove away, the familiar streets seemed alien, a reflection of the new, uncertain world I had stumbled into. One thing was clear. I needed to talk to Emily. I needed the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The world outside seemed to blur as I drove away from the pharmacy, my mind a whirlwind of confusion and suspicion. The images of Sophie and Lily, so strikingly similar, haunted me. The weight of Tom's words and Lisa's insinuations about Emily and Mr. Thomas pressed heavily on my chest. I couldn't go home, not yet. I needed to clear my head. I found myself driving aimlessly, the city's familiar streets morphing into a labyrinth of my tumultuous thoughts. The hum of the engine was the only constant in the chaos of my mind. After what felt like hours, I pulled over near a small park. The sun was high in the sky, casting sharp shadows on the ground. I sat there, staring blankly at the families enjoying the sunny day, their laughter a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. Emily and Mr. Thomas. Close, I murmured to myself. The phrase echoed in my head, amplifying my doubts. I needed to talk to someone, to vent, to seek advice. I reached for my phone and dialed Max's number. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey, what's up?" Max's voice came through, cheerful and unsuspecting. Max, I need to talk. Can we meet? My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, strained and anxious. Sure, buddy. Everything okay? Max's tone shifted to one of concern. I'll explain when I see you. Let's meet at Joe's Cafe in 30 minutes. All right, see you there. Hanging up, I felt a slight relief at the prospect of confiding in Max. He had always been a good listener, a steady presence in my life. Arriving at the cafe, I spotted Max already there, his brow furrowed in worry. You look like hell, man, he said as I approached. I forced a weak smile and sat down. The cafe was bustling with activity, the smell of coffee and baked goods filling the air. But the lively atmosphere felt disconnected from my inner turmoil. Max, I don't even know where to begin, I started, my voice barely above a whisper. Just start from the top. What's going on? Max urged, his eyes fixed on me. I recounted the events of the past 2 days, the photo of Sophie at the pharmacy, Tom's and Lisa's comments about Emily and Mr. Thomas, the charity event picture. Max listened intently, his expression shifting from confusion to concern. So, you think there's something going on between Emily and this Mr. Thomas? And that this girl, Sophie, could be related to Lily? Max summarized, trying to grasp the situation. I don't know what to think, Max. It's all too coincidental. The resemblance is uncanny. And Emily never mentioned being close with her boss, I replied, my frustration evident. Max leaned back, processing the information. Have you talked to Emily about this? Maybe there's a simple explanation. I haven't. I can't face her, not until I know more. I'm afraid of what she might say, I admitted, feeling a knot in my stomach. You need to talk to her, man. You can't let these doubts eat you up. Whatever the truth is, you need to hear it from her, Max advised, his voice firm yet sympathetic. I nodded, knowing he was right. The fear of the unknown was paralyzing, but I couldn't live in this state of uncertainty. Thanks, Max. I just hope it's all a misunderstanding, I said, not entirely convinced of my own words. Whatever it is, you'll handle it. You're stronger than you think, Max reassured me, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder. Leaving the cafe, I felt a bit more grounded, though the dread of confronting Emily lingered. I needed to prepare myself for whatever truths lay ahead. The drive home was quiet, a stark contrast to the noisy chaos of my thoughts. As I parked the car in the driveway, I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. The house loomed before me, a place that once symbolized comfort and safety, now a battleground for my deepest fears. I stepped inside, the familiar sound of Lily's laughter greeting me. Seeing her, so innocent and unaware of the storm brewing, I felt a pang of pain. I had to protect her, no matter what the cost. Hey, Daddy, Lily exclaimed, running up to me with a bright smile. Hey, sweetheart, I replied, hugging her tightly, the fears and doubts momentarily pushed aside by the warmth of her embrace. I knew the conversation with Emily was inevitable, but for that moment, I held on to the semblance of normalcy, a brief respite before facing the uncertain revelations that awaited me. That evening, the house felt unusually suffocating, the walls seemingly closing in on me as the hour of confrontation with Emily approached. Lily was now tucked in bed, her innocent snores a stark contrast to the cacophony of fears raging in my mind. I sat at the kitchen table, the clock ticking loudly, marking each second with unbearable weight. Finally, I heard the front door open and close softly. Emily was home. My heart raced as her footsteps approached the kitchen. She appeared in the doorway, her face tired but smiling, unaware of the storm brewing inside me. Hey, you're still up. Everything okay? Emily asked, setting down her purse and coming over to give me a peck on the cheek. I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. We need to talk, Emily. It's important. Her smile faded, replaced by a look of concern. What's wrong? I hesitated, then plunged into the heart of the matter. I went to your pharmacy yesterday and today. I saw a photo of Mr. Thomas's daughter, Sophie. She looks exactly like Lily. Emily's face paled, a flicker of something unrecognizable crossing her features. Sophie? Why? Why were you looking at her photo? There's more, I continued, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. People at the pharmacy said you and Mr. Thomas are close. And there's a picture of you two at a charity event. Emily, what's going on? Emily sank into a chair, her composure crumbling. I can explain, she stammered, her eyes not meeting mine. Explain then. Because right now, it looks like there's something between you and Mr. Thomas. And that Lily might be his. No, it's not like that. Emily's voice was a mix of desperation and fear. Mr. Thomas and I are just colleagues. Yes, we're close, but it's purely professional. But the resemblance between Sophie and Lily. I pressed, my voice rising in frustration. Emily's eyes filled with tears, her hands trembling. I swear, there's nothing inappropriate between me and Mr. Thomas. Sophie's resemblance to Lily is just a coincidence. I wanted to believe her, but doubts clouded my judgment. How can I trust what you're saying? This coincidence is too much. Please, you have to believe me. I've never been unfaithful, Emily pleaded, reaching for my hand. I pulled away, the gesture a physical manifestation of the emotional distance between us. I need some time to think. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I understand. But please know, I love you and Lily. That's the truth. The room fell silent, the tension hanging heavy in the air. Emily stood up slowly, her shoulders slumped in defeat. She whispered a good night and left the room, her steps heavy with the burden of unresolved issues. I sat there for a long time, lost in a sea of thoughts. The possibility of infidelity, the uncanny resemblance between Lily and Sophie, Emily's tearful denials, it was all too much to process. After what felt like hours, I made my way to Lily's room. I watched her sleeping peacefully, her chest rising and falling in a rhythm of innocence. In her, I saw the embodiment of all that was pure and untainted in my life. Whatever the truth is, I'll protect you, Lily, I whispered, a silent vow hanging in the stillness of the room. The night stretched on, sleep eluding me as I wrestled with my thoughts. The truth, whatever it was, seemed just out of reach, a puzzle with pieces that refused to fit together neatly. As the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, I realized that the unraveling truth was a path I had to walk, no matter how treacherous it might be. Emily's words, her pleas, and the haunting image of Sophie, they all pointed to a reality that I needed to face, one that threatened to alter the very fabric of our family life. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow on the chaos of last night's revelation. I sat at the kitchen table, a cold cup of coffee in front of me, the events of the previous evening replaying in my mind like a broken record. Emily's tearful denial, the undeniable resemblance between Lily and Sophie, the whispers at the pharmacy, it was a tangled web of half-truths and suspicions. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, hidden layers that Emily wasn't revealing. Determined to find the truth, I decided to seek out Mr. Thomas. Maybe he could shed light on the situation, provide a piece of the puzzle that was missing. After dropping Lily off at school, her cheerful chatter a stark contrast to my inner turmoil, I drove to the pharmacy. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, each turn bringing me closer to what I hope would be answers. The pharmacy was quiet in the early morning hours, the usual bustle of customers yet to begin. I spotted Mr. Thomas behind the prescription counter, his back turned, sorting medications. Taking a deep breath, I approached him. "Mr. Thomas?" I called out, my voice betraying a hint of nervousness. He turned, a polite smile on his face. "Yes, can I help you?" I hesitated, then dived in. "I'm Emily's husband. I need to talk to you about something important." His expression changed, a flicker of recognition, then concern. "Of course, let's talk in my office." We moved to a small room at the back of the pharmacy, cluttered with files and medical supplies. Mr. Thomas gestured for me to sit. "So, what can I do for you?" he asked, his tone professional yet guarded. "It's about your daughter, Sophie. She looks a lot like my daughter, Lily. People at the pharmacy mentioned that you and Emily are close," I said, watching his reaction closely. Mr. Thomas leaned back in his chair, his face betraying nothing. "Yes, Emily and I work together on various projects. But I assure you, it's strictly professional. As for Sophie and Lily, I've never noticed any resemblance." I pressed on, needing to hear him say it. "Are you sure there's nothing more? Nothing that happened in the past that I should know about?" Mr. Thomas sighed, a weary look crossing his face. "I understand your concern, but there's really nothing. Emily is a valued colleague, nothing more." His words should have reassured me, but doubts lingered. Was he being truthful, or was there something he was hiding? "Thank you for your time," I said, standing up. "I just needed to ask." He nodded, a sympathetic look in his eyes. "I hope you find the answers you're looking for." Leaving the pharmacy, I felt no closer to the truth. Mr. Thomas's assurances did little to quell the storm of doubts raging inside me. I decided to visit the place where Emily and Mr. Thomas had been photographed together, the charity event venue. Perhaps someone there remembered something, anything that could provide a clue. The venue was a large community center, bustling with activity. I approached the reception, explaining my purpose to a friendly volunteer. "Oh yes, the charity event last month. It was a great success," she said, scrolling through files on her computer. "Let me see if I have anything that might help." After a few moments, she turned the screen to face me. There, in a group photo, were Emily and Mr. Thomas, smiling amongst other volunteers. "Do you know if they were close during the event? Did anyone mention anything unusual about them?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The volunteer thought for a moment. "Not that I recall. They seemed like any other volunteers, dedicated to the cause." My heart sank. Another dead end. I thanked her and left, feeling more lost than ever. As I drove home, the weight of the unknown pressed heavily on me. Emily's words, Mr. Thomas's assurances, the volunteer's testimony, none of it alleviated the gnawing suspicion in my heart. I arrived home to find Emily in the kitchen, preparing dinner. The aroma of cooking filled the air, a semblance of normalcy in our otherwise turbulent lives. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Emily asked, her voice cautious. I shook my head, the burden of uncertainty heavy in my voice. "No, nothing conclusive. Just more questions." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I wish I could make you believe me. I've never betrayed you." I looked at her, the woman I had loved and trusted for years, now a stranger shrouded in doubt. The truth remained elusive, a puzzle with pieces that refused to fit. But I was determined to keep searching, to keep unraveling the layers until I found the core of the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The dawn of the new day brought a sense of resolve I hadn't felt in a long time. The sun's rays peeked through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the kitchen where Emily and I sat in silence, each lost in our thoughts over cups of untouched coffee. Today, I was determined to start anew, to pave a path forward out of the labyrinth of doubts and fears that had entrapped us. I broke the silence, my voice steady yet heavy with the weight of the past days. "Emily, we can't keep going like this. We need to find a way to move forward for Lily's sake." Emily looked up, her eyes reflecting the same weariness that I felt. "I know. I hate what this is doing to us, to you. Tell me what you need. I'll do anything." I took a deep breath, the decision clear in my mind. I need us to be honest with each other, completely honest. No more secrets, no more doubts. We start fresh from here. Emily nodded, a faint glimmer of hope shining in her eyes. "I promise, no more secrets. I'll be an open book. We can go to counseling, do whatever it takes." I agreed, the prospect of counseling a small beacon of hope in the murky waters of our relationship. "Okay, we'll start counseling. And I'll try to put aside my doubts to trust you again. It won't be easy, but I'll try for us, for Lily." With that, we set into motion our plan for a new beginning. We found a counselor specializing in marital issues and set up regular sessions. Each session was a step, sometimes small, sometimes significant, towards rebuilding the trust and understanding that had eroded. In the midst of this, I found solace in spending more time with Lily. Our afternoons were filled with walks in the park, games, and laughter, her innocence a balm to my troubled heart. I realized how much of her life I had missed, caught up in my own worries and work. One afternoon, as Lily and I sat drawing in her room, she looked up at me with her big, innocent eyes. "Daddy, are you and Mommy going to be okay?" I paused, the simplicity of her question cutting through the complexity of her situation. "We're trying, sweetheart. We're trying really hard." Lily nodded, seemingly satisfied with the answer, and went back to her drawing. I watched her, a surge of love and protectiveness welling up inside me. No matter what happened, Lily was my priority. Meanwhile, Emily and I navigated the rocky path of reconciliation. Each counseling session uncovered layers of unspoken feelings and misconceptions. We learned to communicate better, to express our fears and desires openly. It was a slow and sometimes painful process, but it was healing in its own way. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Emily reached for my hand. "Thank you for not giving up on us," she whispered. I squeezed her hand gently, a sign of the fragile bond we were rebuilding. "Thank you for being honest, for trying. That's all we can do." The days turned into weeks, and slowly, the dark cloud of suspicion and doubt began to lift. We found joy in small things, family dinners, movie nights, walks around the neighborhood. Lily's laughter became the soundtrack of our healing. However, the question of Lily's paternity still lingered in the back of my mind, an unresolved chord in our symphony of renewal. I knew that one day, I would have to face it, to seek the final piece of truth that would complete our journey of a new beginning. But for now, I focused on the present, on rebuilding the life and love that had once defined us. It was a new beginning, fragile yet hopeful, a testament to the resilience of love and the power of forgiveness.